So I saw Barbie. It was well after the Barbenheimer hype wore off and I heard all the celebratory howls of the fans. So as it got near the end of the year, I needed to put together my best of movie list. And I knew I needed to fill the gap and give the biggest hit of the year a watch. And I watched it and I didn't like it. I didn't hate it, but it definitely didn't sit right with me. At first I thought it was just a case of a movie being overhyped. I did expect to enjoy it. In fact, I was rooting for it. But after I watched it, the more I thought about it, the more I realized my concerns were more legit than just broken expectations. And where it lost me was right here, where America Ferrera puts the movie on pause to tell us what the film that we've just been watching is all about. First, I want to preface by saying that I understand that the Barbie movie means a lot to people, especially women. For a lot of people, the movie, and even this very scene, helped women feel heard and appreciated. And I don't want to, nor can I take that away from anybody. Your experience is your own, and your opinion is valid, and you can love a movie for all it gets right and even all it gets wrong. That's the beauty of art. It is subjective. This argument is entirely in good faith. So please don't lump me in with other YouTube bros that just fill up your feed with rage bait. And I will also say that there's so many ways this movie could have just gone completely wrong and didn't. I mean, they managed to make a Barbie movie that was subversive, superbly produced, directed by one of the hottest new directors, and starring an amazing cast. On a professional level, it soars. I mean, remember that they made a Bratz movie back in 2007? Yeah, I forgot too. This could have gone like that. Like it or not, I cannot deny that it connected with a mass audience. It's a movie that at face value is very entertaining. It's fun to look at, it's got dance numbers and beautiful people, it's got some legitimately funny moments that I laughed at. The problems are on a deeper level. It's the kind of movie that you leave the theater thinking you liked it, but once you start to think about it, you find it doesn't quite live up to the scrutiny. So where the movie falters is on two major levels, the story and the message, and how they actually don't fit together. Barbie more or less goes on a hero's journey, journeying to the real world to find why she suddenly is having an existential crisis. Her journey leads her to learn that she hasn't solved the problems of women and have in fact created unrealistic beauty standards that many modern girls don't want thrust upon them. So Barbie discovers she no longer wants to be a doll, she wants to be a real girl. Ken, on the other hand, also joins her when he learns that men in the real world aren't second-class citizens, and in his excitement, he brings the patriarchy over to Barbie World. So now Barbie World is corrupted with the patriarchy. All Barbies have lost their independence and are now accessories to the Kens, who like to watch The Godfather and listen to Matchbox 20. Oh, that's just not fair. Those two pieces of art are not equivalent. I have always just hated Push, and for it to be used as the stereotypical man thing to listen to is kind of hurtful. But I guess I should be grateful they didn't use a Nickelback song, like Photograph. Barbie returns and discovers that after giving the other Barbies a pep talk, they snap back to reality and begin to think on their own again. They go out to save every other Barbie and make a plan where the Kens are so distracted they fight each other, and then they forget to vote and instate one of their own as president, and thus cementing themselves as rulers of Barbie World. Or Kendom, right? How about Canada? Yeah. So the Barbies vote and return the world back to how it was. And our main Barbie heads over to be a real woman and experience life in the real world, and we know this because she's booked to see a gynecologist. Look, Barbie, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I think you probably should have consulted some real women before jumping in to get a uterus. Every woman I have talked to wants to rip it out of their body once a month. So, you know what, you'll figure that out soon enough. So Barbie is less of a movie and more like a sociological essay to give the most bare bones explanation of Feminism 101. For the record, I do consider myself a feminist, and I'm not against a film that takes that stance, but it is the most basic version of it. So, if you've been a woman, or have talked to women and listened to their struggles on a daily basis, a lot of this is very familiar territory. While Western civilization is making great progress in equality, we're still not there yet, and that's just factual. I know some people take issue with that because they don't see it regularly, but again, just talk to women and listen to women, and you'll hear all the ways in which life is just not equal yet. Just because we've made progress doesn't mean that we can't make more progress. So yes, there are people who need to hear America Ferrera's monologue and will feel heard, or maybe will hear for the first time what it feels like to be a woman in society. But for me, I feel like the movie was already saying all that, and we didn't need to stop the film and explain it to me. Yes, I know, please stop talking to me like I'm dumb. Huh. Maybe this is how women feel when they get mansplained to. Anyway, while I found it abrupt and unnecessary, I do know that the scene really hit a lot of people in the feels and made women cry because they felt hurt and everything, so I'm willing to give it a pass because it plays to the audience, clearly. It's not great filmmaking because, show, don't tell, but it worked for the audience, so it's fine. And hey, America Ferrera got to, act and get an Oscar nod for it, so you know what, good for her. But sadly, the movie doesn't really expand on ideas like why the patriarchy is bad. More or less just says it outright, makes some jokes, and leaves it at that. I would love to see a more thorough breakdown of how the patriarchy functions, how it suppresses women's voices, and how it is intrinsically linked to capitalism, as there are whole industries built on women's value being linked to their appearance rather than their inherent value for just being people. But yeah, I guess that is a lot to ask from a movie that's PG rated and plays to a mass audience, not to mention that it is still expecting you to buy their dolls after the show. Of course, I guess the counter argument is that some people are dumb and some people are young. And young people and dumb people will need things explained to them very, very clearly. And yes, I think that young people can get a good crash course in feminism from this film. But that's also where the big problem in the film is for me, because if you want to include the young and the dumb, you really need to make sure that your message is on point. So let's talk about that ending. Barbie Land is like the real world, but instead of the patriarchy, they have a matriarchy. The whole system in that world benefits Barbies, and Kens are essentially second-class citizens who are there to serve the Barbies. Ken joins Barbie on her adventure because he literally has no identity without her. It is an exaggerated version of the world, though not that much really if you only go back a couple generations. Or this is actually even better than some parts of the world to this day, as far as women's rights goes. But it clearly illustrates what the patriarchy is through a pink lens. Okay, so the Kens took over Barbie Land, so the Barbies overthrow the Kens by working them into a jealous rage, so a Ken civil war starts. They get so caught up in fighting and singing and dancing that they don't vote on establishing the rule over Barbie world. The Barbies vote, and the status quo is maintained. Like, in general, I don't feel like the solution to your movie should be to maintain the status quo. But the problem is that there are two ways to read into this. First, if we look at this very literally, the message of the movie is that men are inherently evil and incompetent, and if given the reins of society, it will crumble, and therefore they must be overthrown and made into second-class citizens. Now, I don't personally believe that this is the intended message of the movie because A, it was co-written by Noah Baumbach, a man, and unless he's got an out-of-control humiliation kink, I can't imagine he would purposefully say that he deserves to be a second-class citizen. But even then, if we look at Greta Gerwig, the credited woman co-writer, I frankly believe she's too intelligent a filmmaker for this to be read that literally. As much as I have issues with Barbie, I fully love and embrace her other two movies, Little Women and Lady Bird. And that's why I expected so much out of Barbie, because I know that she and Baumbach are top-tier filmmakers. So that means that the ending is supposed to be symbolic, which just opens up a whole host of issues. If you look at what the Barbies do to the Kens and swap the genders, you can instantly see why it presents a problem. Imagine the solution to a film being that in order to maintain the natural order of things, you have to pin women up against each other so that they don't exercise their right to vote, so all men can get together and secure the patriarchy, and keep those uppity womenfolk in their place as second-class citizens. And it's played for laughs. Like, that's crazy, right? How is that a solution to anyone's problem? I mean, I guess it's great for President Barbie and all that are close to her, but the Kens are left in the dust. That's nuts. And they try and distract from the fact that they're doing it by making everything so silly with the beach fight and song and dance. But like, these are real life issues. In the US, they have a whole political party counting on minorities and young people to not vote so they can maintain power, put an egomaniac in the president's chair, and then strip away the checks and balances that keep people like that out of power. Like, this isn't hypothetical. This is happening. And this movie just kind of makes a joke out of it. we're living in a world where even in the free, quote-unquote, Western world, some lawmakers value the life of embryos more than women's bodily autonomy. And we're sending out a message that people of dissenting voices should remain silent. And right now, the way that women have been exercising their power and taking it back is through voting. So, if anything, this all comes across as a little bit tone-deaf. It makes it feel like ultimately the film didn't know how to say what it wanted to say. It didn't really have the concept figured out beyond the broadest strokes of that women have it hard in modern society and patriarchy bad. And from such talented filmmakers, I frankly expected better. Or if they wanted to keep it light and fluffy, maybe don't push your mission statement so hard. My wife stands by the film and believes that the ending with the Kens is there to demonstrate that women in the real world have a long way to go before they're treated like equals in society. Like the Kens being continually oppressed was the point. So while I don't completely disagree with her take, I still can't say that it's an ideal way to end the film. I can't speak for authorial intent. I just look at the text and see what it says. And to me, it says that the celebrated solution, presented as if this is how the society is supposed to be, still is to maintain the status quo. It is not presented as a, well, here's how it is for now, let's see if we can draft something more equitable in the future. It's a, yay, those uppity Kens are back where they belong. If they had a more open-ended ending, like the Kens were at least brought to the table to discuss with the Barbies what they wanted out of their society, I could respect that. I don't actually expect the Barbie movie to present a permanent solution for centuries of inequality. I suppose that it's possible that a sequel could have more of a solution, and it shows the Kens are still having issues with their society, and the story of the next film could reflect that nothing was actually solved in part one, but all that remains to be seen. As it is, frankly, I find the ending unsatisfying and entirely careless with its message. And if you're going to have a movie that is primarily about its message, my thought is you should really consider what message you're sending. I mean, you want to talk about an ending that would really have sparked a lot of conversation and have me clapping? Is if the heads of Mattel show up in Barbie World and try to get Barbie back into her box. So the Barbies and Kens all get together and eat them. Realizing this is the way that Barbie can really solve the world's problems, they travel to the real world, targeting the super rich and literally eating them, tearing the system down from the top. Then maybe Barbie could take the throne, like at the end of Chronicles of Riddick, burdened by this empire she inherited, while looking into the camera knowing that what has been done had to have been done. Of course, that version of the script would not get greenlit, I'm sure, but man, it would have people talking and would certainly have my full endorsement. So if you're mad at me, that's okay. You're welcome to disagree. Just remember that one specific movie can't be the voice of an entire movement. Greta Gerwig's Barbie is not the alpha and omega of feminism. And at the end of the day, no one can take away all that the Barbie movie has accomplished. It's the highest grossing film of 2023. It connected with a really broad audience, both of men and women, and even has favored a considerable amount of awards attention, and is even nominated for 8 Oscars. Barbie's story is not that of a failure. And at the end of the day, most importantly, the Barbie movie did make right-wing commentators like Ben Shapiro mad, and that is something to be proud of right there. So thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll happily hear you out if we're civil. Have yourself an awesome day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Moving Pictures if you like content like this.